So, Subaru owners have another engine issue to be concerned with. This is an issue with the TCV, not the CVT and not TGVs, the TCV, the thermal control valve. We're going to talk about that in today's video. So guys, yes, unfortunately, there is a new issue with modern Subarus. Now, this isn't a brand new issue as of today, as of making this video. It has been an issue since 2019-2020 model year when this part was introduced on these vehicles. So if you've bought a newer Subaru within the last 5 years or so, you've probably heard of this issue already or have experienced this issue in the past, and that is an issue with the TCV. Not the CVT, not the CVT this time, it's the TCV. I know a lot of acronyms. The thermal control valve. So the thermal control valve was introduced in 2019-2020 model year, depending on what vehicle you have, and it's had a high failure rate since its introduction. Now, what is a thermal control valve? So what it is essentially is a big old chunk of plastic with some metal bits, sensors, wires, etc., glumped all together and stuck under your intake manifold. And what it does is replace the tried, true, and tested mechanical thermostat that has been in engines basically since the beginning of internal combustion engines. Now, why did Subaru go and put this monstrosity on their engines? Especially knowing that most of the German brands have been doing this for about 20 years now and know that there's issues and high failure rates with them. When you go to these plastic and electronic water pumps and thermostats, thermal control valves, etc., there's a high failure rate, and it's an expensive failure when it does fail. I know a lot of you have messaged me in the past about the TCVs and the failures and having to pay out of pocket when the warranty for the car ran out. And this can be a $1,200 repair, it can be a $2,000 repair. It just depends on the area you're at, what the labor rate is, and how badly the dealership is marking the parts up. That is like head gasket replacement money on the older EJ Series engines or a full engine out reseal on the modern F Series engines. But back to the explanation, what is it, why is it? There's probably lots of good reasons why Subaru went to this thermal control valve over a regular thermostat. I don't know exactly what those are. I'm assuming to get every ounce of fuel economy out of the engine as they could, lessen the emissions output as much as they could, and just have better control over the heating and cooling of the engine. Now, did it work? No, it's been a high failure rate part. Again, what they did was replace a big old chunk of aluminum, the regular old coolant crossover pipe we've had in basically all the Subaru Boxer engines. It's got two ports that connect the engine block halves together. It's got one that hooks up to the upper radiator hose, one that hooks up to the heater core, and this pipe here is for the PCV union on the F Series. This is off of an F Series engine, but the EJ Series is basically a straight through pipe, heater core, radiator, and the engine block halves. It helps to circulate coolant from one half of the engine to the other, to the radiator and the heater core. Very simple, does not fail. The only place of failure you really have are the two sealing O-rings on the bottom where it hooks up to the engine block halves. Other than that, it's a big chunk of aluminum. It's not really going to fail. And it replaced this, the tried, true, tested, old school mechanical thermostat. They're about 60 bucks from Subaru, and people were like, why are Subaru thermostats so expensive? But I've found issues with not using Subaru genuine thermostats. I always spring for the genuine thermostat. So why did they replace this and this with this overly complex part? Now again, I don't know exactly why. Only Subaru and their engineers can tell us, but again, I think it has to do with trying to maximize fuel economy, control of heating in the engine, and lessening those emissions. Now, which engines and cars does this pertain to? I believe it was 2019 in the Crosstrek and the Forester, and 2020 in Legacy and Outback when they started putting this in. Now this is only for the direct fuel injected, naturally aspirated 2.5. So if you sprung for an XT, you got a turbo model, you don't have to worry about this. If you've got a WRX, you've got a 2-liter turbo, you don't have to worry about this. And if you got a BRZ, you don't have to worry about this either. This is basically for Crosstrek, Impreza, Forester, Legacy, Outback, naturally aspirated 2.5-liter engines from 2019-2020 to current. Now, the thermal control valve has a higher failure rate because it is polycarbonate plastic. There's issues with the housing cracking, leaking coolant. There's issues with the temperature sensor inside failing. There's issues with the motor that moves the valve to open and close and regulate the flow of coolant failing. So this part has a high failure rate. How will I know if I have this failure going on in my Subaru vehicle? What are some signs and symptoms? Well, you'll pretty much know right away. You'll get a check engine light on, your eyesight will be disabled, all the warning lights will be up on the dash. Plug in a scan tool, you will have codes like P0128 for coolant temperature failure to reach minimum threshold. You'll have like a P2682 or a P26A. There's lots of different codes associated with this failure, and there's lots of different symptoms associated with this failure. Now, as far as I know, there's two different versions of the part. They've redesigned it around 2022 or so, but there's still failures on both the original and the new redesign. Now, there's two different ways that it can fail. Well, there's more than that, but it's basically like a thermostat failing open or failing closed. This valve can fail in the same manner. If it fails closed, it will overheat your engine, cause engine damage if you continue driving it. If it fails open, your engine just will not reach operational temperature. It will always be cool, and you won't get much heat, if any at all, out of your heater. Now, that is the optimal way. You want it to fail open. That way you can still drive the car. You're not going to be issues until you can get it replaced. If it fails shut, you're pretty much screwed and have to fix it right away. Now, as far as I know, the new part has been designed to fail open, but you can't guarantee with an electronic system that it will fail open. On a mechanical thermostat, you can have a fail-safe where it fails open, but it's a little bit tricky on this part with the plastic electronics and sensors. All kind of issues, bad all the way around, should not be on the car in my opinion, and Subaru honestly realized that this was a big screw up because on the 2025 Subaru Forester, the new redesign, you'll note that there is no thermal control valve. Looks like they've gone back to a mechanical thermostat and a regular coolant crossover pipe. They realized they screwed up and backpedaled on this design. So in February of 2022, Subaru issued a technical service bulletin about this thermal control valve failure and introduced their new redesign of the part. Now, it's pretty much the same part looking at it. It's just three different things really that they changed on the inside. They changed the molding resin on the housing to make it less susceptible to cracking and leakage. They tried to better the waterproofing on the temperature sensor to again prevent coolant and water getting in there and corroding that sensor out. And they changed out and enhanced the stainless steel shaft in the internal part of it. So they did a little bit of tweaking to it, but it's still a big plastic hunk of junk. If you wanted it to last, you made it out of aluminum and it would have cost 3 times as much. So this thing is not cheap. It's plastic and, some metal bits and some electronics and a stepper motor and all this other stuff. And it's almost $400. I'm sure if they made the part out of full aluminum and made it a really nice part, it'd be like $1,200, if not more. So not sure how they're going to long-term fix this. It looks like it's just going to be an issue that has to be bandaged and repaired from now until there's a delete kit or a retrofit kit. But then you'd have to go through and do a software update, and it's going to be a mess in the foreseeable future. So that was their answer in 2022. Change the part, fix the part, upgrade the part, and, change it out. And the silver lining in all of this is that Subaru just the other day, ironically enough, on April Fool's Day, April 1st of 2024, they issued a TSB, another technical service bulletin, on an extended warranty for the TCV. Now, that extended warranty is good for 15 years or 150,000 miles on the part. I believe the standard Subaru warranty now is 3 years, 30,000 miles, or 3 years, 60,000 miles. I can't remember. All the companies are changing their warranties on their vehicles, but now you have an extended warranty of 15 years or 150,000 miles. Now, if you're over that, you're still screwed and got to out-of-pocket that because I think it's whichever comes first. So if it's either 15 years or 150,000 miles, it's not, in between. So if you got over 150,000 miles on your 2020, you're going to have to pay for this out of pocket. Again, they need to figure out a long-term solution for this. They need to figure out how to make this right, because this is going to be a continuing issue until the part is completely redesigned. It is no longer an issue. But I don't think that they can make this part be no longer an issue or not fail just because of the nature of the part. They should have stuck the way they were with manual thermostats and a regular coolant crossover pipe, and they've learned that this was a big screw up because, again, like I said, the 2025 does not have the thermal control valve. They realized this was a blunder, this was a misstep, and now we've got a 5-year model range year of vehicles that are just going to have continuing issues with this until there is a permanent solution. So just be wary of that, guys. If you're looking at a 2019, 2020 to up to 2024 model year Subaru, and it's not a turbocharged one, and it's not a WRX, not a BRZ, you got to think about the issue with this TCV. You got to think about the failure. You got to think about replacing that, paying someone to replace it, or replacing yourself. The downtime, all of this stuff. It's just another headache and another mark on Subaru, another black eye for them. We went through the head gasket issues of the EJs, now the oil leakage issues of the S-Series, and now the later F-Series is having this issue as well with their thermal control valves. It's just always something. Now, before, again, you get in the comments and saying Subaru's a piece of junk, Subaru's trash, and dogging them, every single car manufacturer, whether it's GM or Ford or your beloved Toyota, everyone loves to gloat about, they all have failures. They all have common issues. There's always something going to break on it. Anything mechanical will break eventually. It will wear out. It's just the way it is. So just letting you guys know, educating you guys on this part, on this failure, so you can be informed. An informed consumer is a powerful consumer. Know that this is a potential issue, can crop up. Don't be stressed out. Don't be nervous about it. Again, you've got the extended warranty to cover those of you that are not over 150,000 miles yet. And for you second owners or third owners of these vehicles, you just got to be aware of it. We'll be making a DIY how to replace this soon enough when I get my hands on one to actually film and do. But it's not that complicated. It's not that difficult. It's just a time-consuming thing with having to drain the cooling system, acquire all the parts, get that $400 thermal control valve, and then take off your upper plenum intake manifold, all that mess, and get in there, and there's lots of wires and pigtails and hoses and things to switch around and change. And there's actually been some fires. I know that there was some fires. People had their thermal control valves replaced, and then their car burned to the ground, leaving the dealership because people weren't torquing or tightening these high-pressure fuel lines, and they were spraying gas under the hood. And there was a couple Subarus that burned up because of this right here. Yeah. Well, we'll show you how to do it right. We'll make that video in due time as soon as I can get my hands on one. Anyone that lives in the North or South Carolina area and you have a failed thermal control valve on your Subaru, let me know. Hit me up with my email. If you want to bring it to me to repair it, I'll give you a great deal on the labor as long as you let me film the car to get this information out to you other Subaru owners. I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one.